I-24 News Morning Edition on this January 11th, 2016. A week of frantic searches after Nashat Malhem, the Arab-Israeli terrorist who has killed two Israeli Jews in an attack on a Tel Aviv bar last Friday, has led to a shootout this past Friday, with Israeli police forces and anti-terror commando units at his hometown Arara. Malhem was killed at the scene, but the story is far from over. Rhetoric from politicians, police, and media suggests the terrorist was aided by people he knew, suspectedly from his hometown, fueling the already flamed incitement against the Arab minority. Fears of the intifada of knives, so to speak, seeping into radicalized Arab townships within Israel, echoed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's harsh statements against the Arab-Israeli sector, are now drawing attention to the high concentration of illegal weapons in the sector, as well as the constant inequality from which Arabs in Israel suffer daily. With me in studio to discuss all of that and more is, of course, our diplomatic correspondent, Tal Shalev. Good morning to you. Morning. And also Mohammed Darouche, Director of Equality and Shared Society at the Givat Chaviva Center. I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Before we break this down, let's take a look at the following report that recaps what happened over the weekend in Israel and break it down from there.
It took a full week for the Israeli security forces to get their hands on Nashat Malhem, the Arab Israeli who murdered 3 people in Tel Aviv on New Year's Day. The lengthy manhunt involving hundreds of soldiers and policemen, which spread panic throughout the country, ended in Malhem's hometown of Arara in northern Israel.
We end 8 days of attrition, arrests, raids, media pressure indicating Nashat was indeed hiding here, which took a huge toll on everyone here, fearing he might act again. We didn't want to see the affair end with his killing. First, because Nashat was a sick man, and we also wanted to hear from him what were his motives for carrying out the attack.
And the motives are indeed a huge part of this affair. The fact Malhem was an Arab Israeli with full citizenship has raised a heated debate over the question of dual loyalty in the Arab sector in Israel.
Anyone with eyes in his head knows there are large gaps between the Israeli Arab and Jewish public, resource gaps and gaps in law enforcement, gaps and discrepancies in right obligations. These gaps formed during decades, and it's the time to make a major national effort to reduce them.
Meanwhile, a Haifa court ordered the release of Malhem's father and brother after they were arrested last week on suspicion of aiding Nashat after the fatal shooting. There are still many loose ends on the before and after of Malhem's attack. But perhaps the more difficult questions are the ones that were raised during the 7-day manhunt, such as the police capabilities, the vision of both the Israeli and the Arab Israeli leaderships, and social gaps and divisions. It remains to be seen if any of these questions will be answered before the next national crisis.
I-24 News diplomatic correspondent Tal Shalev with us in studio. Tal, I want to start with you because Benjamin Netanyahu, right after the attack came out, honed it in a way of pinpointing the Arab-Israeli sector. But post this week and after a city itself was in siege, political gains, and I'm going to put it that way, political gains by the Prime Minister. What are we going to see next?
Well, we should just put the Prime Minister's situation into context. He has harsh criticism from his right-wing opposition, Avigdor Lieberman, who basically has been targeting the Arab-Israeli sector in the past few years as a political goal. And he has been saying that the Tel Aviv attack is the result of overly forgiving policies towards Arab extremism. And Netanyahu is a political creature. He hears that threatens him. So he feels a need to strengthen his tone and to make it a harsher tone. We should also just say that the attack happened just days after the government approved a wide-scale, very ambitious program and plan of $3.85 billion for social and economic investment in the Arab sector. But that plan wasn't warmly accepted in the Israeli government. It took 2 weeks to pass it because we're talking about a very right-wing government. So Netanyahu, responding to what he felt was his constituents' trend, spinned last week that he is now conditioning this plan on enhancement of law enforcement in the Arab sector. And yesterday, he also continued this talking point in the cabinet meeting. He said that it is true that there are huge gaps, but you cannot close those gaps without enhancing law enforcement in the Arab sector. That being said, it should be noted that the Arab leadership itself has been urging the government to take care of this problem in the past few years, and but so far nothing has come out of it. So now Netanyahu says that this time it'll work. Of course, time will tell, to wait and see if that will actually happen.
If that will actually happen. Mohammed Arash with us in studio. The Arab-Israeli community, when it comes to what happened over the course of last week, first of all, again, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Is there a problem with the Arab-Israeli community, as right-wing factions in the country will say, when it comes to, I don't want to use such a strong word as loyalty, but where does the affection lie, so to speak, at the end of a story as such, when something like this happens?
Before I touch on that, let me go back to your introduction. You counted 2 casualties in this event, and only the Jewish casualties. There were 3 casualties. True.
There were 3, and there was a cab driver.
That's the key problem. That's a key. It's not only your, it's not your mistake. It's a mistake of the overall Israeli society. When they look at the incident, they just look at the Jewish pain and the Jewish agony as a result of this terrorist attack.
I want to thank you, and it's completely a mistake.
So that's one. Yeah. Then I'd like to also comment on what Tal said. It's what we see from the Prime Minister, unfortunately, is behavior of a small politician, not a behavior of a leader who's a Prime Minister, who has to act with responsibility. He's acting for his small political gains and not as a leader that should be concerned about Israel. Maybe there is gain for Netanyahu, but there is loss for Israel in the way this crisis is being managed. We've seen many crises in Jewish-Arab relations over the years. And in every crisis, the Arab community has clearly made it very clear that we have an interest in positive integration between the Jewish and the Arab citizens of the country. 82%, according to Professor Sami Smoha's last poll, which was published a month ago at Givat Haviva, 82% of the Arab citizens want positive coexistence with the Jewish citizens of the State of Israel. Yes, we have about 16% that have negative, and I would say even they're contributing badly and have radical perspectives towards the State of Israel.
I would argue that the Israeli society has the same.
In the Jewish community, by the way, the same poll shows 30% negativity, 70% support, but 30% negativity. Right. The question is, what do we choose to focus on? Do we choose to focus on now on delegitimizing the 82% of the Arab citizens, which unfortunately the current government is trying to do? It's trying to push the 82% towards the wall and to say, you're all guilty, you're all Nashat Malhim, you're all terrorists, and it's soliciting negative reaction from the Arab community, which we saw it yesterday in the way the police behaved in Arara. They went in, and justifiably so, they went to search for more weapons, they went to search for more suspects, which is fine. No one comes and says to the police, do not do the security work. We need more secure Arab villages, more than what the Jews of Israel needed. I need it more than what you needed. In my town, it's a town called Iksal, in the last 12 months, we have 2 casualties. 2 people were assassinated in my town, were killed. One young boy, 21 years old, he was killed at midnight sitting in a cafe outside in the village. A month and a half ago, a 72-year-old man was shot dead at 6 o'clock in front of his, he has a library, in front of his library.
There is a problem with guns, and not just Jews are the target.
2 people, 2 casualties in my community were killed, and this did not become Israeli main news, did not become the main story. I didn't see the Prime Minister or the police minister to come and say, now we're going to crack on collecting arms. We do not want guns. We don't want legal guns. We don't want illegal guns. We don't need guns. We're not in any war with anyone. We just need to have public safety in our towns and villages. Now, let's go back. I don't want to escape from the Nashat Malham issue. There's no question that those kind of acts, first of all, harm, the casualties. And here my heart goes to the families of the people that were killed and people that were injured.
All 3 of them.
That's number one. And all three of them.
Yes.
Yeah. But the second thing that we need to look for is, how do we treat those kind of situations? The way to treat this situation is by embrace of the Arab community. And when we talk about policing comes in 2 ways. It doesn't come just by harsh imposition of the law and order as they're speaking today. Police is also service. I don't see the police officer in an Arab village that helps an old lady to cross the road. I don't see police officers at 7:30 in the morning helping kids to cross the road in front of schools. That's policing also. I want the whole package of policing. I don't want just the harsh arm of the government to come and hit on the Arab community. If that's the result of this situation, we're not going to want it. We want policing as a full package that helps integrate the Arab citizens as equal in Israeli society.
I'm going to let that stand on its own because there's no argument to anything that you said just this morning. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we